Your daily dose of sports talk is here. Highlights, interviews, and analysis. From the entertainment capital of the world, SportsWrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and great to have you with us on this Thursday edition of the show with a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Special guest joining us on the program today, Kyle Troup of the PBA Tour. Two-time major winner. Had one of the most lucrative seasons in the history of the PBA Tour in terms of the amount of money he earned. One of the best bowlers in the world. Will join us. Had a chance to catch up with him before the show. And he's out at the Pete Weber Missouri Classic just outside St. Louis. Of course, the legendary bowler Pete Weber, the tournament named in his honor, and the best bowlers in the world taking part there. You can watch the Pro Bowlers Tour, or the PBA Tour, over on CW this weekend, and Kyle Troup will join us talk some bowling coming up a little later on in the show. Sam Yarnell will be here coming up in about 10 minutes, get to some of the top stories of the day with him, including news out of spring training involving a couple of AL East teams, the Yankees and the Blue Jays. We'll get into that. Also, the Seahawks general manager John Schneider met with the media yesterday out at the Combine in Indianapolis, and some of the things he said certainly getting some attention. We'll get to that coming up as well. We start things out as we always do on this Thursday edition of the show. It's time for the big story. And the big story today is athletes being used as props. You know, we're seeing this, and look, I don't want to just point to one presidential administration or another. We've seen this forever. You know, teams go to the White House to celebrate a championship. It's always been done to a degree, right? Athletes being used as props. And they've always gone along with it because it was always relatively harmless. Being associated with a Republican or a Democrat if you were an athlete didn't really matter all that much. And then we got into the era of Donald Trump. And that started to change. At least for athletes it did. For Trump it didn't. When Trump came into office, he was willing to invite anybody into the White House, whether they, agreed with his politics or didn't agree with his politics. Then once he started to see that some groups were not accepting the invitation and making him look bad, then he started to say, well, I'm not going to invite you, I'll invite you. I'm not going to invite you, I'll invite you. That started to become a trend. Now, you've got USA Hockey that's been caught up in all of this. With the men's team going to the White House, they were at the State of the Union, trotted out for all to see, Connor Halibut, Congressional Medal of Freedom, it's all wonderful. Except if you're the women's team and you feel disrespected by this president, which, whether you agree that they should be or shouldn't be, that is how they feel, okay? I say this all the time. People's perception is their reality. Hillary Knight felt disrespected. She called it distasteful yesterday over on ESPN in a conversation with them as it related to the comments from Donald Trump saying, I'm going to have to invite the women now, otherwise I'm going to be impeached. Ha, ha, ha. And everybody laughed and went along with the joke because that's what people do in those awkward moments. Whether they agree with the joke or not, they sit there and laugh and giggle. I could point to a million examples of it. But Donald Trump at the State of the Union said Hillary Knight and the USA women's hockey team as a whole were going to be coming to the White House eventually. And I don't necessarily think that's true. I don't think that's been decided. I don't think all these women have gotten into a room together or on a Zoom together, because now they're all going their separate ways to continue either in college or the PWHL. I don't know that they've all decided as a collective that they want to go to the White House. So Trump put that out there, and it may not wind up looking good for him in the end, because there's a possibility these women don't wind up coming to the White House because they felt disrespected. Again, rightly or wrongly. I'm not taking a side in it. Because as I said yesterday on the show, of all the things that have gone on in this particular administration, Kash Patel using a government jet to go to the Olympics is really low on my totem pole of things that I would go after or things that I would get mad about. And what Trump said in passing during this conversation with the USA men's hockey team, also in the list of overall, the pantheon of things that we've heard from Donald Trump. I don't care. But I can understand the women do. And I think it's their right to feel offended. I don't blame them if they feel offended because I'm not sitting in their shoes. So it's not for me to feel offended. I'm not going to sit here and mansplain why they should or shouldn't feel offended. If they feel offended, they feel offended. If they don't want to go to the White House, they shouldn't go to the White House. And we'll see if they do. Big story number 2. We're going to get into this more on the show tomorrow with our friend Robert Littell from Black Sports Online, who covers everything. This story about Brendan Carr and the FCC and them potentially going after sports leagues for migrating all of their content and their play-by-play into the streaming arena. This is a story worth watching. The FCC's Media Bureau is now seeking out comment from the public on how live sports, including NFL games, and I think this is part of what's triggering this, are distributed now as games move to more of these streaming platforms and services, which makes it more expensive for viewers, makes it harder to find games. I can't tell you how many people. We just had Michael McCarthy on the other day, and we were talking about, I think, the NBA. And he was saying, I don't know what night of the week, what games are on. For somebody like me, it's easy. But for the average everyday person who's not plugged into every second of sports and not making their living off it, it is not so easy. And Brendan Carr is saying that this is making it difficult for fans. It's making it more expensive for fans. Quote, we want to understand the marketplace today, the experience of consumers, and how the changes impact the ability of broadcast TV stations to continue delivering local news information and other programming. Take time to translate that, and you know what he's saying? Broadcast stations are going to go under. The same way RSNs are about to go under in the cable sports world because play-by-play is starting to move away from those RSNs, and those RSNs are going under. Some of the only things propping up some of these broadcast networks, go look at the TV ratings and the highest rated programs. If you go and look, the NFL props up a lot of these broadcast networks in terms of the money the NFL brings in. Now you got the NFL migrating to streaming. It's becoming a problem. I wonder who the FCC is ultimately trying to serve here with this, because I'm not 100% convinced that this is about trying to give consumers the best options. We're going to talk more about this tomorrow on the show when Robert Littell joins us from Black Sports Online. All right, we've got some baseball to get to. That's the big story. Sam Yarnell's next. Welcome back to the show. I've had my say in the big story. It's time to welcome Sam Yarnell into the show for the first time today. Now, I will just openly tell people, peek behind the curtain. This segment is Sam's idea, not mine. I had something completely different planned for this segment, and I said I was kind of wishy-washy on segment 2 today. Sam texted me this morning as I was in the shower. And he said to me, I've got segment 2. So you see it up there on the screen. And in particular, he wants to talk about Giancarlo Stanton, the man who will one day be in the Hall of Fame when he gets to 500 home runs. Giancarlo Stanton. So Stanton apparently has got some elbow issues. Kudos to Randy Miller reporting on this, who tweeted out, quote, Yankee slugger Giancarlo Stanton, quote, can't open a bag of chips due to ongoing pain in elbows, but he's determined to play a full season. Sam, the floor is yours.
I mean, Jason, I'll say what you've said before on this very program,
Hall of Fame.
Right? The only thing that would prevent Giancarlo Stanton from getting to 500 home runs, which you think will just assume him into the Baseball Hall of Fame, is health. And, like, this is not good because now, Jason, you as a Yankee fan remember 350 days ago when we were in this exact same position with Giancarlo Stanton and he couldn't swing a bat because his elbows didn't work, and now he can't even open a bag of chips. This is just not This is not great for the whole Giancarlo Stanton's going to have 4 more 20 home run seasons.
He's got 453 home runs. He needs 2 good seasons and he's in.
And he can't use his arms right now.
He's fine. It's only his arms. And who needs to open a bag of chips anyway? I want to know, but here's what I want to know. And maybe you know something about the baseball swing that I don't. I'd ask Ardsma, but he's a pitcher, so he's kind of useless on this. I wish he was here to hear me say that. But I want to know how you can swing a 34-ounce baseball bat or 32-ounce baseball bat, but not open a bag of potato chips. I'm trying to sit here and Sam, something.
I don't get it.
But he's determined he's going to play. He says he's going to play the full season.
Right, and that's the part that I don't buy at all for a bunch of reasons, more than just this elbow injury, another of which being it's Giancarlo Stanton. How many full seasons does he have in the last 7 years?
Oh, God, not many.
The thing with the reason this elbow thing is interesting, right, is because I don't understand, in the same ilk as you, right, how he was swinging the bat if he can't open the bag of chips. How can he straighten his arms or bend his arms? If you're having trouble opening a bag of chips, what does that mean? It can't mean anything good.
It's all that in a bag of chips. 24 home runs, 24 home runs in 77 games last year, by the way. So, if he plays 100 games in the next 2 seasons, he's getting to 500 home runs. He's at 453. He's getting to 500 home runs. Trust me, he's hanging around until he has to get to 500 home runs. He's getting to 500 home runs. And look, maybe he plays 110 games, 120 games. You've got Jason Dominguez, which don't even get me started on how the Yankees have screwed that up. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Interesting story, though. From Randy Miller. So kudos to Randy on that one. Max Scherzer back for another year, a 19th season for Max Scherzer. He will be doing his thing in Toronto for the Blue Jays this year, and frankly, they need him. That Bowden Francis, is done for the year. You've got Shane Bieber, who's got arm fatigue. I mean, he's not going to be ready for opening day, because they're obviously going to have to work him, and get him worked up. And I think what did he throw, 80 innings last year, 47 innings? I don't forget. He's thrown like a combination of like 120 innings over the last 2 years, but not a good sign when you're the Blue Jays and you need Max Scherzer right now.
I mean, the Blue Jays have, at worst, the second best rotation at worst in the American League right now. Kevin Gausman, Dylan Cease, Trey Savage, Jose Barrios, and you figure it out on the 5th day between Cody Ponce and Max Scherzer. The Blue Jays they're just stockpiling at this point. It's crazy how they absolutely dog-walked the American League last year, and everyone's just going to let them do it again. This is wild what we're seeing in Toronto.
Here's the thing, too. I mean, they also they got off to a slow start last year. Through the middle of the season, they were just kind of an also-ran. So I think they probably know this is a marathon and not a sprint. They'll get Bieber back at some point, and having the insurance policy of a Scherzer there. But I just wonder. What Scherzer's, because if it's a numbers game, I wonder how Scherzer even stays in that rotation once Bieber comes back. What does he become at that point? What are you doing with Max Scherzer? What are you doing with Max Scherzer once the dance card is full if you're Toronto?
I think it's a Cody Ponce. I mean, this is super inside baseball, but you'd think it's a Cody Ponce move down to Buffalo just because he was a KBO guy who they just brought over. You'd think, but like at the same time, how frequently do you have 6 healthy starters that are all at the top, right, of your pitching staff in your organization? It's not very frequent throughout a 162 game major league season. What I'll say is very interesting about this signing as well, Jason. It's a $3 million base salary worth up to $10 million if he hits all of his incentives. They loaded that contract up. And for a guy like Max Scherzer, I have a feeling he's going to want to go out and earn every single penny he possibly can. I wouldn't be surprised if he just goes balls to the wall this year with his pitching style.
Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. By the way, one other Yankee note, Yankees to retire the 24th number in the history of their franchise, number 52, CC Sabathia, will go into the retired numbers area over at Yankee Stadium, and pretty soon there will be no Yankee numbers left to wear for players because they just keep retiring everybody.
Why are they doing this on September 26th? Did I see that right? Well, first of all, that's fine. Okay, if you're going to do that, announce it in like May. Don't announce it in February because now people have to wait 7 months from today to see it happen. Just a weird time to announce it. Or if you're going to announce it now, have it in the middle of the season.
Maybe they just figure they'll be out of contention by the time we get to September 26th and they'll need something to get fans to go to the game. You never know. We're coming back. We got more to do. Kyle Troup, PBA bowler. He'll join me next. Welcome back to the show. Anytime I get a chance to talk bowling on this program, I'm going to do it. I'll be a little self-indulgent. And if I do it, I want to bring in this guy to do it. Kyle Troup.
What's up, Jason? How's it going?
The pride of North Carolina hanging out with us on the show.
And Kentucky.
All right, Kentucky
Working on
too.
the Kentucky pride now.
All right. Fair enough. Well, I know you're a Panthers. I know you're. I was following you on social when the Carolina Panthers were making their run in the postseason, so I wanted to give you some love there. Taking part in the Pete Weber Missouri Classic going on just outside St. Louis, the PBA Tour over on the CW. The finals on Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern. The CW, one of their new TV partners there. Our show airs on a lot of CW affiliates, particularly our weekend show. So I thought it was great to get you on and promote what the CW is doing with the PBA Tour and yourself as well. So I got to start with the big news of the week, and everybody's still talking about Brandon Bonta. Throws the perfect game in the finals, the title match against one of the best bowlers in the world in E.J. Tackett. As somebody who's obviously as much a fan of the sport as you can be, as you are, in addition to bowling, what's going through your mind as you're watching this rookie go and do something like this?
So Jesper and I were actually kind of following it as we were already making our drive up here to Missouri. And we were pulling for him, obviously. He was, I guess I could say he was my pick at the beginning of the season for Rookie of the Year. But I'm sure a few people are saying that now. So, it is what it is with that. But honestly, we were screaming. Like, I think it's a dream come true, like a beautiful start to the CW network. For a rookie to step up and do that is pretty incredible. I mean, it might be the story of the year right off the bat in week one of the season. But he did look very good in the practice session on Saturday. They had like an hour practice because that was the first time bowling at the ITRC. And honestly, I feel like he put up a great show of how to break down a lane and how to play a lane. And I bet that comes from collegiate bowling because, he was one of the best collegiate bowlers. And I feel like I just kind of watched him break him down here, start here, move to here. And then 300 on the end is just absolutely sick. Like, cash in the extra 10 G's while you're at it.
I will tell you what my take on it was on Monday when we came on and did the show. And you might think this is a tad bit cynical, but I'm allowed to be. I said, man, it only goes downhill from here. I mean, come on. I mean, you cannot do better than beating EJ and your first TV event. I mean, I just can't imagine from a mental standpoint, everything from here is going to feel like a disappointment for this kid.
I would say so. Maybe when he gets to his next title match and he misses, he spares the first frame. But that's got to give him a ton of confidence coming out here on tour. I mean, they weren't easy. We put out dual pattern. He showed us how to do that very well. And yes, it could be a disappointment moving forward for his next title match as far as score. But I believe that's going to just give him the comfortability week one on the tour. I'm excited to kind of follow along now and see how his season progresses. You
bowled at the time. It was, I think, the 33rd televised 300 in PBA history, 2022 Tour Finals against Chris Prather. Describe to someone that either bowls or even doesn't bowl, what that 10th frame on TV feels like when you're going for a 300, as opposed to the zillions you bowl in league and practice and all of that.
So I guess mine was a little unique because it was during the qualifying. No, it wasn't during the qualifying. I think it was during a head-to-head match.
It was a head-to-head.
Actually, I regress on that. Yes, obviously the nerves kick in there. You feel a little bit of pressure. Bowling 300 on TV is, something that hasn't been done very often. But at the end of the day, anytime I have the front nine, I always want to look back and say, well, I've been confident to this point, so just stay confident, stick to the process, and, go out there and execute 105% of the shot. You never want to be scared or place it. I would much rather go high or through the face on the front nine than kind of baby it or not really want to give it a full effort because I was a little afraid of the moment, so to speak.
The CW, the new TV partner of the PBA Tour, this thing continues to morph, what the PBA Tour is. And I don't necessarily know that what it is now is even what it's going to look like in a year or two as things continue to evolve and change. Talk to me about, though, where it is at this moment, and as bowlers, how you guys feel in terms of comfort level with where things are going.
So, we've actually had two new changes, obviously CW being the new network and also having Peter Murray as the new CEO. I got to meet Peter and talk with him, had a few conversations, and I love his vision. He's also got a hell of a resume, as well as the guy that he brought in with him for digital media and marketing. So I'm very excited about those, about Peter kind of running the ship and his vision for how he wants to grow bowling, take it worldwide and tell more storylines about the players when they're on the CW. Because one thing Peter said to me that I fell in love with, or, really it stuck with me, was the fans aren't going to fall in love with the bowling balls. They're going to fall in love with the bowlers. And that's a big focus of Peter's, and I think a big focus of the CW. So I think it's a great partnership between the two people. And also I was excited about coming on to the CW to begin with because they're kind of new into the sports space. NASCAR, I believe they've got some basketball and bowling now as well.
Football
maybe
too.
A couple other sports.
Yeah.
Football. And in 5 years from now, CW could be one of the main channels you want to go watch sports. And I think it's a great thing that the PBA is kind of early to the party when it comes to the CW. I think we've got some great leadership with great vision. And I will agree, I believe the tour will look a little different next year, but I think difference as in better as well. So very excited for the future.
How about for you? Your off season was a little different. You got married. Congratulations. I mean, that is amazing. I was following. I sent you a congratulatory note on it. But how did that change your approach with everything that it gets involved with getting married? How did that perhaps change your off season in terms of being prepared the way you might normally be for the start of this season?
So, luckily I got married August 23rd, and then we went to the Lucky Larson for our honeymoon / tournament. But then after that, I actually almost felt more devoted to trying to prep myself and be ready for the season. Obviously it didn't show after the first week, but really, it calmed my mind down. I know I have a huge support system back home. I did spend a lot of time at home from October to December. We had our big fundraiser event and got a lot of time to practice and dive in on the lane. So for me, there is no added pressure or added stress after that. If anything, it maybe just become more of a homebody. And the more I'm at home, the more I'm going to practice and get ready.
Kyle Troup's hanging out with us. We're going to do one more segment with him. Lots more to talk about, including his dad going into the Hall of Fame. All of that as we continue on SportsWrap. Another segment of bowling talk with this guy, Kyle Troup, PBA bowler, talking to us in between qualifying blocks at the Pete Weber Missouri Classic just outside St. Louis. Let me ask you, on Pete Weber, as this tournament's going on, is he just hanging around, or does he come in later in the week? Or is he just hanging out there?
He's here. He was at the bowling alley, through most of the practice session. Obviously, I guess he bowled the Pro-Am last night. I seen on social media, and I seen him in there probably by the third game, and he was still, I believe he dipped out right before we finished. So he's definitely very honored to have this tournament named after him for now the second year in a row. I always give him a handshake and a hug, and he's got his family here with him. So it's nice to see, Pete just hanging out in the back, maybe a little less intense Pete, which, you don't get to see too often. So it's nice to see that.
Speaking of greats, your dad goes into the Hall of Fame, just went in. Amazing honor for him. He's such a figure around the tour, especially with your success. It's given people an opportunity to kind of understand who he was and his impact and significance in the sport. Give me a sense of what it's like to see Guppy go into the Hall of Fame and what that has to feel like for you.
Obviously, it's a dream come true for him and myself because I never thought he would get in. Honestly, I thought maybe, hopefully never, but once he passed away, maybe they would kind of give him the sympathy Hall of Fame entry because at the time, you need 10 titles or 8 with 2 majors, and Guppy only has 8. So once they made the new category and he got the call, that was a very special night, and I enjoyed it very much so, just watching Guppy be the man of the hour, all throughout the ceremony, seeing a bunch of older friends that he hadn't seen in a long time, everybody showing up, giving him love. He's already kind of the, star when he walks in the bowling alley or whatnot, but to see him kind of shining again, he doesn't really bowl anymore, to see him, and he killed his speech, absolutely killed his speech. We had one printed for him. I was fairly nervous, he had a couple crowns, and I have no idea what he's going to say when he gets up there. And he didn't even use the script. And I feel like it was a perfect night. We had our whole family there. And to see Guppy be the man that night was pretty sweet because I haven't really seen that excitement and joy from Guppy in quite some time.
Qualifying underway. I'm getting you on after your first of 3 6-game qualifying blocks, which if people don't understand, I have this debate with pro athletes, former football players, all these people that come on the show, and they all mock me when I talk about bowling and bowling in tournaments and how many games it is. From a physical standpoint, try to describe to somebody how it feels after going through 18 games in 24 hours, 36 hours by the time you're done with the 12 today and the 6 tomorrow, what your body feels like after that.
So for me, and I feel like for most bowlers, our bodies really don't hurt too much. I'm trying to think of a good comparison because obviously it's muscle memory to me at this point. Yeah, my back's a little tight, my legs get a little tight, but at this point in my career, now talk to me next week when we bowl like 80 games at the US Open in a week. Yeah, everybody's going to be hurting. But I guess I could say, I think if you go do any sport you're not used to for 24 hours, go play a bunch of tennis for 4 or 5 hours. Let me know how your body feels afterwards. I would think it's a lot of the same, but really more than the physical, maybe exhaustion or soreness. I think it's the mental soreness that really hits more than anything. Just bowling against the best bowlers in the world, dealing with all the different variables, frame in, frame out, game in, game out. That's almost more of the battle while we're out here. So I think it's all about taking care of your body, because if you don't, then these 18 games are going to feel like, you did 4 workouts in one day.
I remember talking about this with NASCAR driver Bubba Wallace last year before he picked up his second win. And the drought that he had. And every week people ask the same question: when are you going to win again? It's 2 years since your last win. When does that, if at all, well, I'm saying on the PBA, I'm saying,
yeah.
That's not going to read. I'm just hold with me here. When does it start to get into your head as a bowler? You seem like a mentally strong guy. I've watched the way you bowl, the way you talk to yourself, all of that. But does the doubt ever start to creep in? When does it?
It's been there. I guess maybe I have a better picture of my mental game because, I can answer that question. I believe I'll win again when I can find mental clarity. A lot of, I don't want to say a lot of doubt, but it seems to be quite easy for me right now to just shut it all off, like shut all emotions off. It's either like last week I was rolling it, I should have been rotating it this week, vice versa. Luckily I saved the block, but there's already a lot of just negative down thoughts, and that's not the way I'm going to be able to win. Probably not going to be able to make a cut with that kind of mental clarity. So for me, and shout out to my wife, I started reading a book last night by Rob Rotella, and just trying
Rotella is a legend in that realm. A lot of golfers use him.
Yep, that was the name. The Golf is Not a Perfect Game, I believe, and just trying to find mental clarity and calmness, I guess, maybe enjoy what I'm doing a little bit more, because right now I'm very hard on myself, and it feels very much like a job, and, just being a little too rough on myself right now. So we need to get the mental clarity cleared up, and that's when I'll win again.
Listen, best of luck in St. Louis. I'm always rooting for you. I text you whenever I get a chance. Be well out there. Good luck in the rest of the qualifying, and hopefully we'll get to catch up later in the season after you get another win.
Sounds good. I win, I'm coming on the show, so book me then.
I love it. We wrap it up with some odds and ends in a few minutes, and UConn with a mollywhopping of St. John's. Woo! Woodshed! Wow! Rick Pitino got a whooping. Sam Yarnell. Let's talk some football. And John Schneider met the press. Everybody's talking because it's combine week, and so everybody's got to go out there and meet with the media and kind of give an update on what's going on with their organizations. John Schneider, the latest to do it yesterday, the Seahawks GM, Super Bowl winning Seahawks GM John Schneider, talked about a whole bunch of items. Start with Sam Darnold, who doesn't sound like they're going to do anything with him as far as redoing his deal. He's getting what he gets. And look, this is always the interesting thing, Sam, that happens with Super Bowl teams. Everybody starts to feel themselves. Everybody's like, all right, we accomplished the team thing. Now I want mine. Darnold doesn't seem like that kind of guy. He seems more the appreciative type. I'm just glad to have the chance. At least on the surface, that's what he presents. But, there's going to be guys like Jackson Smith and Jigba. They're going to have to work these things out. And this is where massaging the cap in order to keep your core in place and keep your Super Bowl aspirations to win again intact so that you're not a one-trick pony like the Eagles were. That's where these sorts of things start to come into play after you win a Super Bowl, Sam. We see it with teams every year. And again, I always say this, Sam. It's one of those things that reminds you of the Chiefs being able to do what they did for as long as they have done it, or as long as they did it, if you believe the window is closed, which is another topic entirely. It's one of those things that reminds you of how hard it is to do that and keep everybody together.
Yeah, not for nothing, right? Something that we talked about with multiple people during Super Bowl week, right? The number that they have on Sam Darnold going into next year is incredible, which is part of the reason we thought that they might renegotiate his deal. But they are not paying him very much. So my takeaway from this, Jason, is credit to the Seahawks. It does feel like they're maximizing their window, at least to some potential, right? We'll see what happens with Kenneth Walker, despite them not franchise tagging him, right? But with regard to Sam Darnold and the control they still have over him and the number that they're paying him going into next season, you have to ride it out like this. You have to do exactly what they're doing coming off of a Super Bowl win. I don't think that there's another option. Maybe if they lost the Super Bowl, you could talk about, restructuring that contract, maybe adding on a couple of years, seeing what goes on there. But winning that Super Bowl, the number they've got on him, I completely agree with what the Seahawks are doing. I think Schneider is making the right choice here. I think that they have to stick with Darnold. They have to stick with what they've got and try to see if they can fit in a couple more pieces and run it back again next year.
And again, there is no reason, the way this thing is structured with this team, there's no reason other than the fact that they do play in a good division that's going to be really good again next year. So they're going to have to run that gauntlet again. But cast that aside, there is no reason the formula here And I know they lose Clint Kubiak, and maybe he was, a Darnold whisperer to some degree, but there's no reason they can't run it back with this group and still be just as successful next year, Sam.
No, you're exactly right. And I think something that you and I talked a lot about in the week leading up to the Super Bowl was an underrated narrative of this team, of this Seahawks team, was they really were a sum of all of their parts. And their parts are largely, homegrown guys that they built in-house or guys that they just happened to hit on because they were castaways from other franchises. That is what is important in the modern NFL, Jason, and keeping that continuity is going to be vital heading into next season for Seattle.
Yes, it will. John Schneider also commenting in this world of politics meeting sports, where you've got the president bringing Team USA out to the State of the Union, and then you've got Hillary Knight out there criticizing the president for things he said after the USA men's team won their gold medal, and the idea of whether or not Team USA women's hockey will go to the White House or not, because Donald Trump said they're going, but I don't know if anybody's really guaranteed that entire Team USA hockey group, the women's side, is going to go. Then you have John Schneider yesterday sort of weighing in on whether or not the Seahawks would visit the White House. And it doesn't sound like it's a foregone conclusion that they're going to go visit the White House. Again, in this era of something that used to be a fait accompli and everybody used to go. Now we don't know if the Seahawks are going to go. He said they're going to talk about it and decide as a team. And I wonder if just the mere mention of that by John Schneider means they don't get invited at all by Trump, because he doesn't want to be embarrassed by inviting them and then they say no. If that makes sense.
At the end of the day, you said something in there that's the most important thing to me about this. Like, this wasn't a thing until like 10 years ago, which is crazy. But like, that's the sad part about all this, is it's like, this was never a thing. Like, regardless of who it is, where they are, whatever you think, like, this was never a thing until we made it a thing. And it's kind of stupid that we made it a thing. Those are my thoughts.
Here's an interesting thing. And I talked about this in the big story today. I wonder if athletes are getting tired of being used as props.
Yeah.
And there is something to be said with this administration in particular. UFC on the front lawn at the White House for the 250th anniversary of the United States. I just wonder how many athletes are just getting tired of being props. And look, and Donald Trump has done this beautifully in a lot of regards. When it comes to sports, the Ryder Cup, where he shows up and everybody goes crazy. He has done this brilliantly, but I wonder if people are getting keen to the idea that they're being used as props. We got more to do. Odds and Ends wraps it up next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Thursday. Friday show, as always, we'll include our friend Robert Littal, the founder of Black Sports Online, will be here. I'm interested to get his thoughts on this story involving the FCC cracking down on all sports packages and sports moving to streaming. We'll get into it tomorrow on the show with Robert Littal. I'm looking forward to that. Tino Patino will be here, because if it's a Friday, it's a NASCAR Friday. So Tino will be here to preview this weekend's race. Also, a couple of reminders, if you haven't done so yet. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast, the place for the audio version of the show, Monday through Friday, available on all your favorite podcasting platforms. And we've added something cool. In addition to the Monday through Friday show being available in an audio platform like this podcast is, we're also now taking our best conversations from the show, whether it's Kurt Heelan talking about basketball, Dennis Bernstein on hockey, Kyle Troup talking bowling. And we're making those into their own smaller podcasts that you can now consume through the podcast channel, the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. Go and get it wherever you get your podcasts. Subscribe today. We also have the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, which is the place for all things Sports Wrap with Jason Page. The Monday through Friday TV version of the show is available there. We also have Sports Wrap Shorts, which, if you have not seen, these are 1 to 3 minute long videos recapping the top stories of the day. Also, the biggest games every day and night. Make sure to go and check that out. The SportsWrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. SportsWrap Shorts also available on our TikTok, SportsWrap Jason Page, and on our Instagram, SportsWrap Jason Page. And now, without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, on this Thursday, it's time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. UConn whooping it up on St. John's last night. There were questions by some as to whether or not UConn would wind up being a 1 seed. I think they laid their message out there loud and clear for everybody to see. UConn dismantling a St. John's team that had won 13 in a row coming into Hartford to play at the Mall last night.
I mean, yes, UConn won the game. Yes, they will be a 1 seed. Sure. Separate conversation. St. John's choked in this game, like massively. St. John's did not make a field goal in the last 17 minutes of this game, Jason Page. It's a modern record. It is crazy what we saw out of the Red Storm. The choke the likes of which we haven't seen in history. In the Big East, in the NCAA for that matter. This is bad for Rick Pitino's group, a group that a lot of people had a lot of confidence in going into the tournament. They got to figure something out, and they got to figure something out quick, because that's the kind of game that ruins a team's season, Jason. Yeah,
and Pitino blamed himself. He took a lot of the blame for what took place there. Big win for UConn, though, last night in Hartford. Jonte Porter, not done playing basketball yet, Sam Yarnell. He's going to play in the USBL, this pro basketball league, for their Seattle franchise, apparently. I want to know what self-respecting league says, yeah, we're going to invite this guy to come play in our league when he just got busted for gambling.
I want to know what sportsbook allows gambling on the USBL, because they better have their alerts on high right now. That's just about all I got to say on that. Good luck to Jonte Porter and whatever his future gambling endeavors may have.
I said this. I've said this before. Sometimes I wonder if there needs to be like a grand poobah of all of sports. Somebody that just oversees. Somebody that steps in a situation like this, and this is like, no, this is not happening. Like somebody to oversee all the leagues, like the president of like the pro sports world in the United States, who just looks and is like, no, you're not, you can't play. Sorry, you are disqualified from playing. I've sometimes, and I've always wondered who would be the right person to lead that. People will always say like Bob Costas should be the guy that leads the whole world of sports, that sort of person. But I've always wondered, like, who would be the right person to be like the grand poobah of all the sports leagues? Like, almost like these sports commissioners, like Roger Goodell and Gary they're like governors, but we need a president, somebody that just oversees all of United States sports and says no, yes, no. Like somebody that could be the grand arbiter in some of these situations. You got one?
No, I don't. And like I'm going through so many names in my head, and I'm picking apart all their cases. Like LeBron James was one at one point in my mind. Nope, there's no way. Caitlin Clark was one at one point in my mind. No shot. I went to Usain Bolt for a second, but then you said American, and I was like, okay, I guess not. I think it needs to be an individual.
You don't think it should be? You think it should be an athlete, not like an executive?
I think it should be an individual. Maybe it could be a current executive, but they have to be a former individual athlete. I think there's something about individual athletics that would help you, understand the cohesiveness that has to happen between all these leagues.
I'll go Mark Cuban. Give me Mark Cuban.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
No shots.
Give me Mark Cuban.
Oh, gosh.
Sign me up.
Oh my gosh, yeah, corruption left and right and everywhere in every sport.
Calling balls and strikes. Let's go. It's going to do it for us. That's going to wrap it up for us on this Thursday edition of the show. Thank you to Kyle Troup. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. We'll see you all back here on Friday for what should be a fun show. Lots to get to then. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.